G'day and welcome back to MotoringBox. In today's episode, I'm going to see if I can avoid the cost of a replacement windscreen and see if I can fix this chip in the existing screen of my XR6 Turbo. Let's see how we go. So this is my 2004 BA Falcon XR6 Turbo, which I picked up a couple of months ago. And from the first day I bought the car, it's always had this chip in the center of the front windscreen here. Hasn't really annoyed me too much, but I had a couple of comments saying how about I have a go at trying to fix it. So that's what we're doing today. And I'm going to try and do it with this Rain-X windshield repair kit. So what this promises to do is to minimize the appearance and stop the spread of chips and cracks in your windshield. So that remains to be seen. I do have a couple of things working against me, and that is they do specify in this kit that you try and repair the crack or the chip as soon as it happens. And this one could have been here for years, I simply don't know. So I am going to try and keep my expectations low, but hopefully this kit ends up impressing us all. So how does it work? Let's cut it open and have a look and see what they've included. So inside the pack we have a set of printed colour instructions, a selection of plastic curing sheets and a razor blade. We also have the applicator base, which has suction cups to attach to your windscreen, and also a bottle of liquid resin. And then finally we also have the resin chamber with the pressure driver already screwed into the top. And even though I'm a man, I am going to follow the instructions this time, and it's a really good thing because they're in full colour and really easy to read. And what we have to do first is wipe down the glass with a dry microfiber cloth or a piece of paper towel, and then grab our razor blade and scrape out any loose fragments of glass which might still be in the damaged area. I decided not to dig too hard because I didn't want to damage my windshield any further. So if you can't seem to dislodge any fragments of glass, I would just probably leave it alone. And what we need to do next is grab the applicator base and position it perfectly over the top of the damage, pushing all 4 suction cups down onto the windscreen. Next up, we need to get our resin chamber and start screwing it into the applicator base. We need to screw it all the way down until the mouth of the resin chamber meets the damaged portion of our windscreen. You may need to move your applicator base if you haven't aligned it properly, so double check that you've got the mouth of the resin chamber exactly where you need it to be. Now that we have the resin chamber in place, we can now squeeze 3 to 6 drops of the resin into the chamber directly. In my experience, it doesn't hurt to add a little bit more than you might imagine. In my case, I started with 4 drops, but I needed to add additional drops later on, so your mileage here may vary. With the resin poured into the chamber, we need to start screwing in the pressure driver. As per the instructions, screw in the pressure driver until you've nearly got it screwed in all the way. This is going to force the resin into the crack on your windscreen, and hopefully expel any air which might be stuck inside. Once you've screwed in the pressure driver, you need to then unscrew it to release any air which might have been expelled from the damaged portion of your windscreen. We then need to repeat this process a couple of times. Screw the pressure driver back in and then back out again, in and out, screwing it down progressively closer each time until you've screwed it in 100% of the way. After you've done this a couple of times, you can then remove the resin chamber from the applicator base, and then remove the applicator base from the windscreen so we can inspect the damaged portion of our windscreen to see how our repair is going. As you can see, my repair is actually looking pretty good. So what we need to do is wipe away any excess resin which might be dripping down the windscreen, before adding one final drop of resin to the affected area and then putting on a curing sheet. Alright guys, so the next step after you've applied the curing sheet to the top of your repair is to leave your car out in the sun for a couple of hours because this resin needs UV light in order to cure. So that's exactly what I did. I've actually been driving this car, so I put a little bit of sticky tape around the curing sheet to hold it down so it didn't blow away in the wind when I was driving, and I left my car out in the sun for the last 2 days, which should be well and truly long enough for this resin to cure. So let's take a look at our repair and see how it's all going. Alright, so here we have my curing strip here on the windscreen, and as I mentioned, I just had this thing taped down. So what I'm going to do is start peeling away the tape. Got a bit of residue from this sticky tape, which isn't ideal, but we should be able to get that off a bit later with our razor blade. There we go. And wow, you know, first impressions are really good. I can still see the chip in the windscreen, but it's probably like 10% as visible as it used to be. And what I'm actually going to do next is get the razor blade that was included in this Rain-X windshield repair kit, spray a little bit of glass cleaner on there for lubrication, and then start going over this thing, keeping the blade sort of 90 degrees to the surface to try and scratch off any residue. With the tape, you can probably angle it a little bit more. Probably should have used something like masking tape instead of this regular sort of clear tape, just because, you know, I haven't done myself any favors here. It's just created a little bit of extra work. But yeah, look, if you're careful with your razor blade, on the tape, as I mentioned, I am increasing the angle a little bit, just so I can scrape off all of that shit. So give me a couple of minutes and we'll be right back. All right, so I finally got the tape residue taken off, and we can get a closer look at the resin here. So there is actually a patch of resin. It's probably about the size of a 50-cent piece. And what I'm actually going to do is keep the razor blade at a 90-degree angle to the surface of the windscreen. I'll spray on a little bit of glass cleaner perhaps, just a little bit, and then start sort of working my way lightly. Jeez, it sounds like you're running fingernails down a chalkboard. But basically what we want to do is scrape off any resin which is sitting proud of the windscreen glass. And hopefully it should remove, you know, most of that resin patch and then leave just the resin which is inside the chip on the windscreen. So I'm going to bear that sound and then just keep scraping away a little bit. I'm not applying any pressure because I can see the resin starting to come off in little chunks. And really, I just want to keep going until 100% of that resin has been scraped off. Might want to cover your ears a little bit. Maybe I'll play some music instead so you don't have to listen to this. Jesus. So yeah, nice and gentle. I can see layers of that resin coming off. And depending how it looks at the end, I might have to give this a little bit of a polish as well, just to smoothen up the resin which is remaining. Let me wipe away a little bit of this. Yeah, we are getting there. The patch is still probably the size of a 20-cent piece. So let's just keep going a little bit longer. Slow and steady wins the race in this case. And change our angle a little bit. Yeah, I tell you what, maybe 90 degrees was not the answer. You might need to, as you get towards the pointy end of this job, you might have to sort of increase the angle of attack on your razor a little bit and just scrape off the remainder of the resin. Tell you what, that's looking pretty good. Buff away some of that shit. And yeah, you know, look, I'm pretty happy with that. I reckon a polish might help with this remaining resin because the razor blade has kind of scuffed it up a little bit. But yeah, look, it's filled up pretty much all of the cracks which were coming out from that chip. And it's really just the chip itself which I can see because of that resin. So let me give this a little bit of a polish. I haven't got any tools here except for a buffing cloth and a bit of cutting compound. But let's see how we go with it. So I'll put a little bit of this. This is just a Meguiar's Diamond Cut Compound 2.0. I think it's mainly for paint, but really you just want a cutting compound which has got a little bit of grit to it. This is a heavy cut apparently, so I'm not going to put too much pressure on it. And I've just got a microfiber cloth here, nothing special. And I'll see if we can work this in a little bit. This stuff kind of feels a little bit like toothpaste in a way. And I guess toothpaste can actually be used as a polisher as such. If you want a better job, if you've got a machine buffer of some kind, feel free to go and do your entire windscreen actually. I use a wax usually on my windscreens, just the regular wax that you would put on your paint, because wax actually does a really good job of protecting your windscreen and also getting that water beading effect, which people lust after. You know, when it rains, if all the water's beading off your windscreen, you barely even need to use your wipers. So there's nothing wrong with using, you know, cutting compound on glass and also waxes, just as you would use on your paint. So look, that's improving a little bit. But look, even if I can't improve it beyond this point, this chip has gone from something which you guys all noticed in the video to something that I reckon, you know, you almost wouldn't even notice or even spot in one of my videos. So it'd be interesting to see how the footage looks from your perspective. From my eyes, you know, it's probably like 5% visible compared to how it was before. So look, I'm pretty happy with that. You're probably going to get diminishing returns the more you buff this thing. But yeah, I'm probably going to stop there. We'll get a bit of glass cleaner. Yeah, look, I'm pretty happy with that. Before this thing, you know, it was almost missing the top sort of millimeter or two of glass. And it was this really sort of horrible chip, you know, and I was probably going to spend about 200 bucks to replace the windscreen on this car like I have had to do on my Fairlane before. But look, for the price of 35 bucks for the kit, I'm really happy with that result. So yeah, look, I'm gonna call that a win, guys, because for 35 bucks, this chip has gone from being a huge deal down to being, you know, barely noticeable at all unless you're looking for it. So the takeaway from this really is if you've got stone chips on your windscreen or small cracks, definitely give the Rain-X windshield repair kit a go. If you've got longer cracks that go across the entire screen, you know, Rain-X say if the crack is under 30 centimeters or about a foot, the kit's good for it. But if not, you know, you're probably up for a replacement windscreen. So definitely use your own judgment there. But yeah, what do you reckon, guys? I'm pretty happy with this cheap as chips windshield repair, but do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, please do consider throwing me a like or even subscribing to the channel, because I have found out that only 30% of you watching are actually subscribed. So thank you very much, guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time.